Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I am Hugh Hewitt on February 4th, 2020. Before I do one other story, I want to say to Rush Limbaugh that we are praying for you. Rush Limbaugh is the reason I am here this morning. Dwayne is here this morning. Adam is here this morning. Ben is here this morning. And every talk show host you hear in America, he is the reason there is a Fox News network. He's the guy who built the talk show mall. I'm just the Nordstrom store at the end of one long row of it. Rush built the mall. The rest of us are just tenants. And so when he went on the air yesterday and said the following, it was a stunner. Cut number 4, Rush, from yesterday.
But the upshot is that I have been diagnosed with advanced lung cancer. Diagnosis confirmed by 2 medical institutions back on January 20th. First realized something was wrong on my birthday weekend, January 12th. And I wish I didn't have to tell you this. And I thought about not telling anybody. I thought about trying to do this without anybody knowing, because I don't like making things about me. But there are going to be days that I'm not going to be able to be here because I'm undergoing treatment or I'm reacting to treatment. And I know that would inspire all kinds of curiosity with people wondering what's going on. And the worst thing that can happen is when there is something going on and you try to hide it and cover it up, it's eventually going to leak, and then people are going to, why didn't you just say it? Why'd you try to fool everybody? And it's not that I want to fool anybody, it's just that I don't want to burden anybody with it, and I haven't wanted to. But it is what it is. And you know me, I'm the mayor of Realville. So this has happened, and my intention is to come here every day I can and to do this program as normally and as competently and as expertly as I do each and every day, because that is the source of my greatest satisfaction professionally, personally.
That was Rush yesterday. And I have a short prayer for people who need it. Bless and keep, Lord. So bless and keep Rush Limbaugh, Lord. And I hope all of you repeat that. But I'm going to follow in his example, normally, competently, expertly, because like him, it's my greatest satisfaction to do this program. But recognizing if you listen to talk radio today, and indeed if you watch Fox today, the maker of the feast, as Dickens says of the reformed Scrooge, is Rush Limbaugh, the consummate professional, always a gentleman, mentor to many, kind to everyone, and just a broadcast superstar. More importantly, a fine man, and bless and keep. Now to the caucuses. Doing my job normally, competently, and expertly is impossible because the Iowa caucuses have not concluded. Now, I stayed up late. Stayed up to 11 o'clock East Coast time. Normally go to bed at 9:30 or 10 because I have to get up very early to prepare for the show. Stayed up late, no results. Whispers. Leafs in the wind. Biden's doing bad. Biden's doing worse. Biden has crashed. After that, I go to sleep. I wake up 1 o'clock in the morning East Coast time. Check my information. There are no results. Huh? And there are screw-ups everywhere. Go back to sleep. Wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and there are no results. And they want to run Medicare for all. That's my takeaway. They want to run Medicare for all. Now, it appears to me that Joe Biden has suffered a devastating, maybe disqualifying loss. If I piece everything together, it appears to me that Joe Biden should just say, thanks for the memories. If I had a song, can we get thanks for the memories ready? Because that ought to be Joe Biden's song today. Thanks for the memories. Because you can come in second. You can come in third. You cannot come in fourth, and he may have come in fifth. Who the hell knows? Nobody knows. Because it's such a screw-up by the Democrats who want to run your health care. Just as well as they ran the rollout of Obamacare. And this Joe Biden song, here we go. I'm Joe Biden. I paid for this song. Nobody wanted me. I went there on the, well, what did he call his bus? Something Express?
The No Malarkey or
the
something.
No Malarkey Express.
Come on, man. Come on. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Let me tell you, I think I'm more in step with the lingo than any of them. Iran is 14 million people. Come on, man. Come on. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Let me tell you, I think I'm more in step with the lingo.
All right, enough of that. Joe's done. He doesn't know he's done. He's done. Put a fork in him. Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg. And maybe Mike Bloomberg. Although we have Chris Christie. I got so much audio. I've been up since 4 o'clock cutting audio. And I got great guests today. Got Lieutenant General Kwast to talk a little bit about the State of the Union tonight in Space Force. I got David Drucker. I got Byron York, Senator Cotton, Michael Pack, who's directed Created Equal, the new film about Justice Thomas, Peter Baker of the New York Times. Hopefully by 8:30, we'll have some results from Iowa. Hopefully by 8:30, we'll have some results from Iowa. But let's go find Chris Matthews. All right? He summed it up better than anyone on MSNBC last night. The Iowa caucus is cut number 19.
The guy in the White House is chuckling all night here, showing the Democrats can't even get a 3-car funeral organized or whatever you want to call it. I would say to the people of Iowa, well, the last person leaving Des Moines, please turn out the lights.
Oh,
this has not been a success.
Don't, my gosh, they're bitter. David Axelrod isn't bitter. He's a professional, cut number 21 over at CNN.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know, they don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter questioning whether the results were valid.
Yeah, you betcha. They piled on CNN. This is David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, Anderson Cooper. I've worked with them all. They're all good people, but they can't ignore the obvious cut 22.
This is the filter through which you pass.
First.
Iowa doesn't pick winners, but it definitely picks losers. You know,
Joe Biden doesn't have a great history with Iowa. And It's been a state he's lost twice. And, I think it's not.
He doesn't have a great history running for president.
But it's because of, partly because of
I
Iowa.
want to ask this question.
Yeah, he doesn't have a great history with anything. Cut number 25, MSNBC live precinct report on who's left. Cut 23.
One more look at, they're gone. The Joe Biden folks are gone. There's 2 left. There was like 5 and they were hanging tough and now they're gone.
No, Jake Tapper on CNN mocking Biden supporters. Cut 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet. You're done. Chuck Todd, cut 17 on the Biden people.
It is not good that Biden. It is interesting. He's an afterthought in these college towns. And that is, it only, he's the electable guy. But Sanders' big shot at him
He's not the electable guy. He's a flop. I cannot overstate how stunning it is that 8 years you're the vice president of Barack Obama, and you come in at best 4th in Iowa whenever we get the results. Listen to me, New Hampshire. It's drive time in New Hampshire. Go get your ballot back if you threw it into Joe Biden. If you took the Kool-Aid for a moment, that guy is done. Put a fork in Joe. We move on after the break. It is February 4th, the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt. Everybody's a winner. Except Joe Biden. Now, Joe is headed to Nashua, where you are listening to me this morning, and I hope you all do a sympathy turnout today. A sympathy turnout. Guy's got to feel low. Spent his whole life working the Democratic fields, and he's come in fourth or fifth. We don't know. Fiasco in Iowa for the Malarkey Express. Bridge over. Man down. Candidate down. Joe Biden is down, down, down in the polls. Honestly, I didn't think you could finish fourth if you were a former vice president in Iowa. It's just unbelievable. So he's going to Nashua today. Go out, pick up his spirits a little bit. He may get out today. He may pull an Ed Muskie. He may cry. 1972 Ed Muskie, back of a pickup truck. I think it was in New Hampshire. He may cry. I'm on in Manchester, too. Joe's not going there today. According to the Politico. They got the various schedule. They're all going off to New Hampshire, but nobody knows who won. Bernie won. They're very, very cocky, and it looks like Elizabeth Warren came in second, but I'm not sure Pete Buttigieg didn't get second. And Amy Klobuchar may have got. There aren't 4 tickets out. Doesn't matter. Amy and Biden together. It doesn't. They're both over. They aren't going to get a dime. Really, who's going to contribute to them? Speaking of which, let's look at the markets brought to you by Birch Gold Group. And I want to say the story of the day, the economic story of the day, is always what I bring you once an hour. This hour, it's brought to you by Birch Gold Group. Look, there are global concerns about the coronavirus. There is soaring national debt. It's no wonder the world's wealthiest are stockpiling gold and silver. Here's the good news. You don't have to be a billionaire to diversify your retirement savings into precious metals. You just have to be willing to take some action. And my friends at Birch Gold Group make it so easy to convert an eligible IRA or a 401k into a precious metals IRA. All you have to do is call 1-800-434-GOLD, request a free info kit. Diversification will work for you and your family. Or you can call Birch Gold and open your precious metals IRA now. For just this month, Birch Gold is celebrating February's bonus day with a special bonus offer. For every $5,000 you put into your IRA, they'll give you a free 1-ounce silver coin. So you can put in $10,000, you'll get 2 of those silver coins, but you have to call and buy this month. Birch Gold Group has thousands of satisfied customers, countless 5-star reviews, and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Call 1-800-434-GOLD, get your info kit, your eligibility for this special offer, 1-800-434-GOLD. Now, yesterday, it was all green in the markets. The Dow was up 143, the NASDAQ was up 122, and the S&P was up 23. Today promises to be another good day on the markets. You don't know till the end of the day, of course. But the fact is China is spending, it's the big story of the day. China is spending billions on their stocks because they have a coronavirus panic. They hadn't spread anywhere else in the world. They have a dozen cases here and there. 1 pops up here and there, 2 pop up everywhere else. But they've got antivirals that can be treated. The pandemic nature of it is very limited. The epidemic nature of it is very significant in Wuhan. And so Monday's market sell-off in China was the worst in many years, wiped out trillions of dollars of values in the country's biggest companies. But not here, not in America, not in the West generally. Few companies are going to take a few hits, but that's okay. The big story of the day is actually Google disappointed. They're going to get creamed all day long. Google disappointed. But the big story of the day, coronavirus killing China stocks, not non-China stocks, and Google earnings being disappointed. Don't forget Birch Gold, 1-800-434-GOLD. That's 1-800-434-GOLD. Can I go back, please? And I think Chris Matthews said it better than anyone. Cut number 19.
The guy in the White House is chuckling all night here, showing the Democrats can't even get a 3-car funeral organized or whatever you want to call it. I would say to the people of Iowa, well, the last person leaving Des Moines, please turn out the lights.
And just
this has not been
cut 21, David Axelrod to take us out.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know, they don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter.
They had a very bad, no good, horrible night. Joe Biden should drop out today. He really should. Manchester, Nashua, go out and clap for him, but the old guy's got to hang it up. All right?
Come on, man. Come on.
Be right back. Welcome back, America. The morning after the Iowa caucus, I cannot tell you who won. I think Bernie won. I think Elizabeth Warren came in second, Pete Buttigieg third, but I can't tell you for sure because everything is broken in Iowa. We'll come back to that in the next segment, as well as State of the Union night, and I expect the State of the Union to feature the president talking about Space Force. So I asked Lieutenant General Steve Kwast, former commander of Air Force Education and Training. Lieutenant General Kwast, of course, served many, many years in the Air Force, to join me to talk about that. Good morning, General. Good to have you back.
Well, good morning. Good to hear your voice.
I want to begin, General, with an off-topic question. I usually spend election days because they're so doggone long. I try and see a movie. So yesterday I went and saw a movie which surprised me a little bit. It's called The Last Full Measure. It's about a pararescue jumper by the name of William Pitsenbarger, who received the Medal of Honor in 1999 after 30 years' effort. It was a 1966 battle in which he lost his life jumping into the middle of a firefight involving Big Red 1. Were you ever aware of his story? Were you aware of this movie? It hadn't gotten any publicity at all.
Yes, I was aware of it, but these are the kind of things that I pay attention to as a person who tries to protect this nation. And so all of the human stories about heroes that are willing to give the last full measure are of great interest to me, because a society that engenders the kind of motivation for people to protect the values is a society that lasts.
It is, and I am amazed that the cast in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson, Sebastian Stan, Christopher Plummer, Ed Harris, I mean, Peter Fonda, just goes on and on and on, and it hasn't gotten a lot of look back at the Vietnam generation. You're too young for that, but they deserve this kind of a movie, and I hope people go and see it, and I hope they learn the story of William Pitsenbarger. What surprised me, General, and then I'll move to Space Force, of the nearly 4,000 Medal of Honors that have been conferred, only 3 have been received by Air Force enlisted men. Are you surprised by that?
Well, I'm not. The interesting thing about life and about this habit that you have of going to see movies is something I'd like to propose to all your listeners, because for people to reflect on what's going on around us and what this all means is really important. And movies like that help tell this story about what this all means. The fact that it's this many Army or this many Air Force or this many Navy is really immaterial. What is important is that we have a cadre, a group of people in this society who are willing to put on the cloth of defense to protect the values that has made this country great.
Well, now, General, I want to switch to the State of the Union. It's going to be on in about, 6 o'clock tonight. And 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock tonight, East Coast, 6 o'clock, West Coast. President's going to walk out there, and for the first time ever, I believe there will be a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff wearing a Space Force uniform. Am I correct in that?
I am assuming that will be the case. We'll see tonight when we actually turn on our TVs, but I think that will happen.
And what will you feel when you see that tonight?
Well, great pride in our country at recognizing some of the things that are changing around us. Just as the changes that took place when we moved from the hunting, gathering, gardening age to the industrial age, we are moving into a new networked age that is going to change life for all human beings on planet Earth, no matter where you live. And the Space Force and that person in that uniform is a recognition by this country that we as Americans need to lead ourselves into this new future, or we will be led by somebody else.
Now, in the collection of categories of weaponry and mission that the Space Force collects, will they have cyber, General Kwast?
Well, again, sometimes we get trapped into these silos of trying to assume or predict the future of saying, you are going to do this, you are going to do that. The way these take place successfully in history is when you start with new capability, meaning you say, what is the problem? What are we trying to do? You build new capability, and then you decide what mission that capability should do. Otherwise, what you do is you start making assumptions for the future that were true in the past, and it doesn't fit, and you can sometimes lose if you fall into that intellectual trap.
Now, what I'm particularly speaking to is that each of the branches, for example, fly a sort of helicopter for a sort of mission. That's not particular to any of the services. Coast Guard has helicopters, Air Force has helicopters, Army has helicopters, Navy has helicopters. Space Force sits there and they have a unique mission and a new frontier. Do you expect them to fly helicopters, or are they going to be much more focused on a particular set of instruments and a particular set of capabilities, and when will we know what those are and how they will develop?
Right, and that's a great question. And, the reason everybody flies aircraft is because as we invented the airplanes, the Wright brothers invented the airplane in 1903, the world started figuring out how powerful it was to use the air to travel and to do all kinds of things, communicate, and so everybody needed it within what it was that they were trying to do. The same is going to be true in space. Space is so underutilized right now. We think we work in space by having satellites that fall around the Earth, but it is an entirely new geography. So everybody will benefit from space. Everybody will use space. But the Space Force will, in the future, start defining what they can do that nobody else can do. And that will start emerging as they build new capability. So everybody will use space, but only the Space Force will do those things that nobody else can do. Like, for example, if this evolves the way I think it should, historically, they should defend commerce in space so that anybody that is working as an American in space in any kind of business that is providing goodness and prosperity to our country has somebody that will protect their values, protect their hard work, and bring rule of law and a sense of justice to that environment.
Now, I don't want to go Star Wars on us, but we don't have any capability right now to do that, do we? We don't have a shuttle that's flying. We do have a lot of private sector initiatives in the area of space, but do we have any vehicles that can enter space and return?
Well, we do, and they are growing and emerging more and more every day. So what you're going to see is it's almost as if we as a nation never knew there was an ocean out there. We were just on land, and we were just doing our thing, growing our food, gathering, and we discovered that there was this ocean, and people started building canoes and then boats and then ships. And the same is happening here with space. Space is a geography of resources and potential prosperity, and we are going to explode into it as we go forward. So there are some things, like the X-37 is an example of it's really a tiny little shuttle, but it can go up into space, it can come back down, and Elon Musk is building the Starship. Jeff Bezos is building his aircraft or spacecraft. And we are literally emerging into an age where it is going to be aviation-like access to space, where you can get into a spacecraft, you can take off, you can be anywhere in the world in less than an hour and back home for dinner. And that will become pedestrian, meaning everybody will do it, just like you fly in a plane to get to L.A., to New York right now.
All right, two very quick questions, General, both about tonight's State of the Union. What is the relationship with NASA, between the Space Force and NASA, and what do you expect the president to say about Space Force and or about NASA tonight? Or what would you like him to say?
Well, I think I would like the president to remind the American people of this power of understanding what is going on around us. And what is going around us is technology is changing world power. And we are moving into a new realm where space is going to change the way we deliver energy and information. And to remind the American people that going forward with the Space Force is a way for America to lead, because some civilization will lead into this new ocean of prosperity. And historically, whoever leads into that new area will define the values. And I want the values of free speech, equality, human rights, and life and liberty. I do not want the values that we see being imposed on those in Hong Kong or the Uyghurs I want American values in this new prosperous economy because we value and respect human life.
General Kwast, thank you for joining us. Lieutenant General Steve Kwast, former commander of Air Force Air Education and Training Command, expert in Space Force. Thank you for bringing some perspective for the State of the Union tonight. Of course, I'll have most of the key State of the Union tomorrow, and maybe by tomorrow as well. We'll also have results from Iowa. Don't hold your breath. Let's talk a little bit about why Joe Biden collapsed. First of all, you got to understand, yesterday morning, Joe picked a bad time to go on the Today Show and sort of melt down with Savannah Guthrie. Cut number 2.
Has it occurred to you that there's a certain irony here, that here the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine?
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Well, do you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position, knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Don't you think that it's just one of those things where people think, well, that seems kind of sleazy. Why would he have that job if not for who his father was?
Because he's a very bright guy.
I guess the question I'm kind of asking is, was it right?
His appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he said he regretted having done it. Speaks for himself. It's a grown man.
You know, that was not a good look. Britt Hume on Fox News said this about Joe Biden. Cut number 1.
I've known Biden since he came to the Senate. I've always liked him. He's one of the nicest people in politics. And I'm the same age he is. And when he couldn't remember where he met the Parkland students, didn't remember that he had already been a year out of office, when he was thought he was in acted like he thought he was in Vermont when he was in Keene, New Hampshire. Those are not standard Biden gaffes of the kind he's always made. Those are gaffes that have to do with being old and senile. And how do I know that? I'm a bit that way myself. So I'm very sympathetic to him.
You know, that is brutal. Oh, poor Joe. Going to Nashua today. Sympathy crowd, please. I'm on in Nashua this morning. I would hope all of you go out and give Joe a clap because he's going to fade. Chris Matthews, one more clip summing up last night's fiasco. Cut number 3.
Been to Democratic events in the middle of the first Iraq War, but they never mentioned it. The whole party was there. And what are my thoughts? I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this field. I think they got to find a candidate for president that can beat Trump.
And you don't think anybody in this field
I'm
can
looking.
beat Trump?
I'm still looking.
Still looking.
What's the problem?
Obvious problems. They're all problems. Bernie Sanders is not going to be president of the United States. Okay?
Oh, Chris Matthews. Oh, the Bernie bros are going to be mad at you. I voted for him, Chris. ReliefFactor.com. There it is, my friends. Time of that morning. It's going to be a long day if I wait for the Iowa results. There it is. And we got the State of the Union. I need my ReliefFactor.com. Open it. Easy to open in the world. Tell you with my lukewarm coffee, which isn't actually so bad this morning. There's actually a modicum of temperature there. Icarian curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, the 4 natural supplements that support the temporary relief of minor aches and pains. Got to take it every day to get the maximum effect. You got to get going. 3-week starter kit to try it. See if joint works for you the way it does for tens of thousands of people, including me. All you have to do is go to ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com, $19.95. Pete and Seth Talbot have begun this for you. Join everyone who does it. Drucker joins us tonight. I wonder if he's been up all night. He may have been up all night. We'll see if he's got a gristle. Stay tuned. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
They tried to, I think, promote an app to report the results. The app, by all accounts, just doesn't work. So we've been recommended to call into the hotline, and the hotline has not been responsive.
Have you gotten any explanation, Sean? Sean, have you gotten any explanation at all as to what's going on?
No, I have not. No. I'm just waiting on hold and doing my best to report the results from my precinct.
What are you hearing? I know you're listening to a conversation from the Iowa Democratic Party.
This is a real coincidence, Wolf. I just got off hold just now, so I've got to get off the phone to report the results.
All right, go ahead and report your results. Can we listen in as you report them, Sean?
Yep.
All right, let's listen.
All right. Okay, hi. Hello? They hung up on me. They hung up on me. Okay, I've got to
Welcome
get back.
I'm Hugh Hewitt. That's from CNN last night. David M. Drucker joins us. David, I have rarely seen anything like this in politics, and the only message is Joe Biden, of all the people who got run over last night, Joe Biden got run over the most, and then they backed the car over him and ran over him again in the middle of this chaos. What did you take away from this?
Well, I don't really know what to take away from it because you don't have any results. So, what I thought was interesting is that you had people finally get smart and go on television and fill airtime and essentially declare some measure of accomplishment or victory and head to New Hampshire, which is probably what they should have done. And so it's, it's just one of the weirder things that I've seen where you have an election and you don't have results. And as you know, so much of the finish in Iowa is not the results. It's about expectations. Did you surpass or underperform the expectations? You can finish third and, it boosts you like a rocket into New Hampshire, as long as you were supposed to finish fifth or something like that. And if you're supposed to finish, in the top 2 or 3, and you finish, third or fourth distant, then it doesn't matter. Everybody is already writing your obituary.
Yeah, now, David.
But a lot of this script, but this is the script we weren't really able to write last night. And so my takeaway is, this whole first phase is on hold.
That's not my takeaway, because I know that Joe Biden spent 2 weeks there with the Malarkey Express. And unless everybody is wrong about everything, I realize they haven't got results. He finished at best fourth. He may have finished fifth. So the one takeaway we're on right now in New Hampshire. All right, we're on in Nashville, we're on in Manchester, we're on in the Granite State. The one takeaway I can take away from this is that Joe Biden fell flat on his face. Why?
Well, it's possible that the impeachment trial, where they focused on nothing but Ukraine and whatever role his son may have had in it, hurt him. And the only reason I'm hesitating on making the call that you're making is because I want to see who actually won Iowa. Because if Bernie Sanders won Iowa, a low fourth place finish for Biden is a huge problem. But if Pete won Iowa and Bernie is somewhere in the middle and Biden is third or fourth, but he's jumbled in with a bunch of other candidates, then it's a little more complicated. It just is.
Well,
that means the field has a chance to remain unsettled for longer, and it gives somebody like Biden a chance to compete in South Carolina
David,
and upend things again.
You're like the ER doctor with the paddles. You really are. You're like listen to Britt Hume on Fox News yesterday, cut number 1.
I've known Biden since he came to the Senate. I've always liked him. He's one of the nicest people in politics. And I'm the same age he is. And when he couldn't remember where he met the Parkland students, didn't remember that he had already been a year out of office, when he thought he was in acted like he thought he was in Vermont when he was in Keene, New Hampshire. Those are not standard Biden gaffes of the kind he's always made. Those are gaffes that have to do with being old and senile. And how do I know that? I'm a bit that way myself. So I'm very sympathetic to him.
So that is brutal commentary, and I don't know how you avoid, he's in Nashua this morning. I'm on in Nashua right now with you, David. I want a sympathy crowd to come out for him. But, again, judging from all the bits and data, it's fourth or fifth. Sanders in first. Just go with my scenario. Sanders in first. Biden fourth or
look, with
fifth.
that scenario, right? With that scenario, he's in deep trouble. He'll run out of money before he gets to South Carolina.
That's it. I wanted you to say it, not me. He's going to run out of money.
Right. Well, this is what I'm missing from actual data, and I just don't like to get over my skis.
But let me get over your skis.
Everybody knows how this works.
Yeah. The radio audience.
If your finish in Iowa is disappointing, and especially if you're running a front runner operation, which costs money, which is top heavy at least a little, there's no way you survive. That's why the Super Tuesday myth, other than Mike Bloomberg's bottomless pit of money, has always been a myth, because you never last that long, because voters that come after the first vote are influenced by it, and momentum is created.
Yeah,
or lost.
I am telling you right now, there are campaign staffers for Team Biden who are calling around and asking other campaigns if they need help in all sorts of states. David M. Drucker, thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure to talk to you. David M. Drucker on Twitter with the Washington Examiner. Hour number 2 of the non-result Iowa caucus morning after. Day of the State of the Union is next. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Morning, Glory, America, bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings, especially to my audiences in Manchester, Keene, Nashua, New Hampshire, where all eyes turn to you. I'm encouraging everyone to get out and give a sympathy clap for Joe Biden. I don't know the results in Iowa with specificity. I know he got rolled over last night. He lost. Fourth or fifth place. We'll figure it out in the course of the day. I'm joined by Byron York of the Washington Examiner to talk about three things: the State of the Union tonight, the impeachment acquittal tomorrow, and the Iowa fiasco last night. Good morning, Byron.
Good morning, Hugh.
Which order? Were you up all night?
No, I wasn't actually. I will tell you my caucus story, which is, as you know, there are a few journalists here in Des Moines, and all of them were covering the Democratic caucuses. So I thought to myself, I got here on Thursday in time to go to the president's rally, and it was clear the president had a pretty large operation in Iowa. And it was not because he was terrified of Joe Walsh or Bill Weld. It was because he was trying to win the general election, to get it in the bag, while Democrats were still struggling to find their candidate. Now, we didn't know how struggling they were. So what I did was I went to a Republican caucus last night in Ames, Iowa, about 40 minutes north of Des Moines, and they did this radical thing. They voted once, they counted the votes, and they reported the results.
Oh, my gosh, you're kidding me.
And so what was interesting, another thing I did here is I also went to a campaign event from Joe Walsh, the former Republican congressman who was challenging the president. So I just wanted to see how this worked out. And I don't know if you've seen the results, but statewide, Trump won 97.19% of the vote, and Walsh won 1.08%, and Bill Weld, the former Massachusetts governor, won 1.27%. So Joe
beat Bill.
Chance.
Joe Walsh beat Bill Weld.
No. Bill Weld beat Walsh.
Oh.
Weld got 1.27% to Walsh's 1.08%.
Oh, that's got to sting.
So this was the first test for Never Trump Republican challenges, and it did not go well.
That's got a sting to lose to Bill Weld. I'm sorry, Joe. Joe used to be on the Salem Radio Network, and so sorry, Joe. Our condolences. Byron, let's talk a little bit about the hunter-gatherer aspect of the Trump campaign when it comes to data, because I believe that's what the rallies are about. I believe that's what the caucuses were about, the president's gathering that you attended on Tuesday night. They are looking for the data.
They are, and they're also looking to make an impression. For people who might not remember, in 1984, in February of 1984, Ronald Reagan is headed to a huge re-election. He certainly has no renomination worries, and he comes to Des Moines. And actually, Des Moines and Waterloo gives two rallies on caucus day when the Democrats are trying to choose their candidate, and the Democrats are outraged. They said this is a stunt. It is not worthy of a president. But Reagan did it, and he really kind of took some of the oxygen out of the room for Democrats. Now, Jeff Kaufman, who is the chairman of the Republican Party here in Iowa, said back in June, he told President Trump about this. He said, Mr. President, and Ronald Reagan did this, and it drove the Democrats nuts. Now, I think other people probably recommended this as well, but sure enough, Trump was here and got about 7,000 to 8,000 people at Drake University, and that was far bigger than any other any event that any Democrat had. Plus, Trump brought a long A-list of surrogates. His family, cabinet members of Congress, Republican governors. I was at the caucus where Donald Trump Jr. spoke, and they stepped up their social media. And as you say, they got all the information from everybody who came to the rally, and then of course you have the information of everybody who comes to the caucus. And by the way, they registered to vote a bunch of new people last night as well.
Now they will move on. I think that
election effort.
I think that circus will move on to New Hampshire, even as the zombie campaign of Biden struggles forward. The president tweeted 37 minutes ago, Byron York, the Democrat caucus is an unmitigated disaster. Nothing works, just like they ran the country. Remember the $5 billion Obamacare website that should have cost 2% of that? The only person that can claim a very big victory in Iowa last night is, quote, Trump, close quote. I don't think the president's going to allow this to pass unremarked upon all day long, and he may even bring it up in the State of the Union, Byron York.
I would think. And by the way, it does appear that Vice President Biden did not do so well. And I did go to his last event here in Des Moines before the caucus, and I will say just a few things. One, the questions about whether he has the vigor required for a long, hard campaign, those are really open questions. He's not a high-energy campaigner at this point. He brought surrogates like Chris Dodd and John Kerry, which really gave the impression that he is a man of the past. Did not really electrify anybody from the stage, but here's the most important thing. It was really interesting. He spoke for more than 20 minutes and did not mention any of the Democrats' most important issues. No health care, no climate change, no gun violence, no jobs, no education. It was really extraordinary. All he talked about was how terrible Trump was, and he displayed no vision for the future beyond bringing things back to how they were when Joe Biden was in office. I think a lot of Democrats look at that campaign and said, this is just not working. And when we do finally get the results from last night, we're probably going to see that.
The Team Biden put out at 5 hours ago by Bill Russo, any campaign saying they won or putting out incomplete numbers is contributing to the chaos and misinformation. They would like very much to move on before a fourth or fifth place finish is finalized. I don't think they can escape that, Byron, but let's turn to impeachment. I believe there will be an acquittal. I don't know if it will be bipartisan. Do you have any reporting on that?
I don't. I do not have any insight. I do know that efforts to try to censure the president, I think, are completely doomed. If you remember, in 1998, there were some Democrats in the Clinton impeachment, 99. There were some Democrats who wanted to censure the president and not impeach him. But House Republicans went ahead and impeached the president. Of course, they had a trial, and a lot of Democrats said, well, wait a minute. He's just been impeached, and he had a trial. That's a pretty big censure right there. So I do not see any Republicans supporting a censure, especially one as strongly worded as Joe Manchin was circulating yesterday.
Now, I also want to make sure I get your reaction, Byron. I began the program by saying, Lord bless and keep Rush Limbaugh. I'm a praying guy. I don't know if you are, but he's the fellow who built the talk radio mall. I'm a tenant like everyone else is. I've got Nordstrom in that mall. And Mark Levin and Sean Hannity, they'd be the first to tell you, all of us, Dennis Prager, all of us would say, Rush built the mall, we're just living in it. And indeed, he may have built Fox News if you go back to the Limbaugh television show. Your reaction to this, and I wouldn't be actually surprised if the president brought it up in the State of the Union. He may not at the request of Rush, but what do you think?
Yeah, I was like everybody else. I was stunned and shocked and very saddened. And I would say, of course, he built talk radio for people like you and Sean and Mark Levin. But has there been a more important conservative in the last 30 years in the United States? Because giving voice to conservative ideals, there just wasn't such a voice.
No, there isn't. In fact, I've also said, Byron, the two most successful entertainers in the past 20 years are Oprah Winfrey and Rush Limbaugh. They're the only two individuals who built and maintained a daily audience of more than 20 million people. Only two people have done that over, it's actually 30 years now for Rush. And Oprah retired. It's quite I hope he recovers. It will take a minor miracle, but people can pray to that end. And you're right. He is the most influential conservative voice spanning that period of time, which has seen a lot of very important presidential and other conservative voices. Consistently, it's been Rush. Byron York of the Washington Examiner, thank you. Follow him on Twitter at Byron York. He'll get the results. He'll tell us what they mean eventually. Coming right back, America, 1-800-520-1234, connection to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Monkeys are so appropriate for the Iowa caucus hijinks. What a colossal snafu. But let me do the business story of the day, brought to you by AndrewandTodd.com. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian. If you are buying a house, if you are refinancing a house, and you might very well want to do that because the 10-year Treasury is at 1.52%. AndrewandTodd.com or Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They lend money to you. You can call them at 888-888-1172. If you need to consolidate debt, you just want to lower your monthly payment, you want to buy an investment property, a second home, you want to help your child or grandchild become a homeowner or a condo owner, then you become a non-occupying co-borrower. Now's the time to do it. AndrewandTodd.com. The big economic story of the day is that China is spending billions buying stocks. Billions. Now, on Monday, the Dow was up 143 points, the NASDAQ up 122, the S&P up 23, as markets have decided coronavirus is a China problem, not an American problem. But Google will be the other story of the day. Google reported disappointing results after the bell yesterday. They will suffer all day long as a result. But Monday's market sell-off in China was the worst in many years, wiped out nearly $500 billion of value in the country's biggest companies. And it's gonna be a while till they get a handle on this. The good news is treatments for the coronavirus have emerged. And, a dozen cases in the United States. We got nothing to worry about in terms of the spread. But locally, they have to double down in China and do whatever they can. The morbidity is vast, and the mortality is not thus far. And if you don't understand that, you're a Steelers fan, look it up. But I want you to look up AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com. Let's go back to last night. This is just too much. Jake Tapper with some Biden supporters getting the word that their candidate in their caucus is not viable. That's the term, not viable, and rejecting the news. Cut number 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year. I'm not trying to be funny, but no. But where? What are you going to do?
We're going to stand strong with our first choice, and when other candidates are not viable, we know that Joe is a lot of people's second choice, and will become viable in the second alignment. Absolutely.
Turns out that wasn't the case. We don't have any results yet, but it turns out Joe's in fourth, maybe fifth place. And I am on in Nashua, New Hampshire right now. I'm in Keene, New Hampshire right now. I'm on in Manchester, New Hampshire right now. And if you see Joe, go up and give him a hearty handshake. He may not know what state he's in, but he's going to push on. Pete Buttigieg, well, they all declared victory. Amy Klobuchar declared victory. Cut number 24.
Thank you so much. Unbelievable. So you've probably heard we don't know the results. But I did not want to let another minute go by without thanking all of you.
All right, so then Elizabeth Warren, same thing. Cut number 26.
Tonight is for every undocumented, unafraid organizer and volunteer.
And then there's Pete Buttigieg out there talking last night. Cut 25.
I believe in American boldness because of my experience governing, guiding a city once called dying out of the shadows of our empty factories and into a brighter future.
So you know what's happening? They all declared victory. None of them know if they won. It appears to me that Bernie won, but Pete might have. Elizabeth Warren came in third. Amy and Joe Biden are kicking each other for fourth place, but we won't get any official results because they're Democrats and they want to run Medicare for all. Don't you want them to run your Medicare? They can't run a caucus. You know, it's 7:30 in the morning and we don't know who won because it's the Democrats, right? But they want Medicare. Coming right back, America. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt. You got to love Democrats. They wanted to run Obamacare. They couldn't get the website to work. Now they want Medicare for all, and they can't get the Iowa caucuses to work. Honestly, you're going to let them run the country? Let's go to the clip of the year. Sean Sebastian is an Iowa precinct worker. He's been on hold for longer than an hour trying to call in his caucus results, his Democratic caucus results. So he calls up Wolf Blitzer on CNN. So he's talking to Wolf while on air. Well, listen to what happens to him. Cut 15.
They tried to, I think, promote an app to report the results. The app, by all accounts, just doesn't work. So we've been recommended to call into the hotline, and the hotline has not been responsive.
Have you gotten any explanation, Sean? Sean, have you gotten any explanation at all as to what's going on?
No, I have not. No. I'm just waiting on hold and doing my best to report the results from my precinct.
What are you hearing? I know you're listening to a conversation from the Iowa Democratic Party.
This is a real coincidence, Wolf. I just got off hold just now, so I've got to get off the phone to report the results.
All right, go ahead and report your results. Can we listen in as you report them, Sean?
Yep.
All right, let's listen.
All right. Okay, hi. Hello?
Too late.
They hung up on me. They hung up on me. Okay, I've got to get back in line on hold. They just hung up.
It's so frustrating indeed. Sean,
your fault,
we're going to stay in close touch.
Thanks, Wolf.
Thanks, Wolf. Hey, can we listen in? Click.
Promoting democracy one state at a time.
One state at a time. Okay, and I love Wolf. Wolf is a friend and another, like Fred Barnes, another long-suffering Washington Wizards fan. But I just, that's going down in the Broadcast Hall of Fame. Nicholas Thompson is editor-in-chief of Wired. He's a contributor to CBS News. He just tweeted out, "This is Trump's ideal. The Dems are in chaos, and the candidate he fears most, Biden, appears to have sunk. The Lusitania Joe is down." And I mean, appears to have sunk? Sunk. Here's Joe, and I think it's because if you woke up in Iowa yesterday and you were undecided and you turned on the Today Show, you saw Joe Biden and you saw him with Savannah Guthrie, the one and the only, America's morning. Hello, how are you? Joe's talking to Savannah, and he gets kind of, well, here he is, cut number 2.
Has it occurred to you that there's a certain irony here that here the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine?
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Well, do you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position?
No.
Knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you.
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
Don't you think that it's just one of those things where people think, well, that seems kind of sleazy. Why would he have that job if not for who his father was?
Because he's a very bright guy.
I guess the question I'm kind of asking is, was it right?
His appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he said he regretted having done it. Speaks for himself. He's a grown man.
Being grumpy with Savannah Guthrie is not a good look. It isn't. And Britt Hume summed it up for us all on Fox News yesterday as they were caucusing, cut number 1.
I've known Biden since he came to the Senate. I've always liked him. He's one of the nicest people in politics. And I'm the same age he is. And when he couldn't remember where he met the Parkland students, didn't remember that he had already been a year out of office, when he was thought he was in acted like he thought he was in Vermont when he was in Keene, New Hampshire. Those are not standard Biden gaffes of the kind he's always made. Those are gaffes that have to do with being old and senile. And how do I know that? I'm a bit that way myself. So I'm very sympathetic to him.
So, cut number 16, Jake Tapper talking with Biden supporters at a caucus, cut number 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year? I'm not trying to be funny, but
stop that,
Jake. What are you going to do?
Jake is a nice man. I don't know what got into him. Chuck Todd on MSNBC last night, cut 17.
It is not good that Biden, it is interesting. He's an afterthought in these college towns. And that is, he's the electable guy. But Sanders' big shot at him is, can he get young voters out? It's not a good look if you're not even getting threshold.
You're not getting threshold. Cut number 18, Chris Matthews.
I when I had a paper out, when I wrote for the paper in San Francisco, I wanted to have a Rose Bowl primary early January before these caucuses. A huge state, great diversity, great weather, a great place to go cover a campaign for a month or so. Live out there for a month, really get to know the people, get the people in a big state with a lot of sunshine and a lot of positive feeling, a lot of Hispanic people, a lot of Afro-American people, and let them all pick a big winner and get started fast instead of just screwing around with these little states for weeks at a time. I mean, 3 in a row, we don't get anything accomplished until we get to South Carolina. 25% of the Democratic voters are African American, and they're not really in the game. I mean, that's really awful. You talk about voter suppression. This is it. Jason's right. It's voter suppression. You're saying black people vote last. I mean, it's wrong. And we do it every year. And everybody says, well, they like it in Iowa. Of course they like it in Iowa. It's here. Of course they like it. But Rachel, I think the reason they stick, not just because of the New England tradition of standing up, and I love the idea of standing up at a meeting publicly, but I think the reason they if they go too much to a primary here and it begins to look like every vote counts simply, you go in, you vote, you leave, then they're afraid they won't get first anymore because then there'd be the first primary. And New Hampshire's the first primary, so how would they have the right to that? I don't know. Michael knows a lot about this on the Republican side. We got to get Tom Perez in here and beat him up a little bit and make him tell us, why do you still start in Iowa?
Yeah, I looked around last night. There was not one pro-Trump voice anywhere on TV. Not one. To make obvious points about how can you trust this party to run Medicare for all. Not one. Went all over the place. Not one Trump voice. Chris Matthews summed it all up. Cut 19.
The guy in the White House is chuckling all night here, showing the Democrats can't even get a 3-car funeral organized or whatever you want to call it. I would say to the people of Iowa, well, the last person leaving Des Moines, please turn out the lights.
And then Chris Wallace on Fox News, cut number 20.
Well, it's interesting because we're getting reports from some of our field reporters with the various campaigns that there apparently was a conference call, representatives of all of the campaigns talking with an Iowa Democratic state official, trying to get explanations. And of course, they were firing back with more questions. And according to this report, the Iowa State Party official hung up on all the campaigns because they didn't have answers to the questions and they got overwhelmed by them. And then I was noting, I had just read this same note that the general counsel for the Biden campaign sent to the state party chair, and this line about wanting an opportunity to respond before any results are released. And you know, basically what they're saying is, don't be putting out your results even if you can tabulate them at some point. We need to litigate, whether or not literally litigate in terms of going to court, but we need to understand and we need to argue, and you assume if they're doing it, everybody else is.
Joe Biden is acting like an accident victim. Don't say anything. I've been run over, and I want everyone to give me their information. David Axelrod on CNN, cut number 21.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know. They don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter questioning whether the results were valid.
And then David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, Anderson Cooper, all on CNN, all piling on the now defunct Biden campaign, cut 22.
This is the filter through which you pass.
First.
Iowa doesn't pick winners, but it definitely picks losers. You know,
Joe Biden doesn't have a great history with Iowa. And It's been a state he's lost twice. And, I think it's not.
He doesn't have a great history running for president.
Running for president.
But it's because of partly.
Ouch! Oh my gosh, they're brutal. Dick in Dayton, Ohio. Hi, Dick. How are you?
Hey, Hugh. How are you? Long time no talk, buddy.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, I was just telling your screener. Good to talk to you. I followed this impeachment, but I'm telling you, Hugh, I just didn't understand on the other side of the party how Schiff stood up against
Schiff.
America.
You mean Schiff?
Pardon me?
You mean Adam Schiff?
Yeah. He sort of degraded the president. Don't you think so?
Well, I don't think he made a lot of sense. And Dick, you don't have to worry about it. He's going to be acquitted tomorrow. Adam Schiff is a joke. He's going down as a joke. And all of the people around him are clapping him on the back. He's a joke. Don't worry about it, friend. Russell, Louisville. How are you, Russell? You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show. 1-800-520-1234.
Super duper DiMaggiotti to you, sir.
Oh, a DiMaggiotti. How are you, Russell?
Fantastic. Listen, I cannot believe that no one wanted to caucus for Uncle Bad Touch Joe Biden. But really, the purpose of me calling was to wish Pete Buttigieg a congratulations on winning the Super Bowl, because it seems like all I've ever heard over the past couple of days and on all the social media is how Buttigieg this and Buttigieg that.
Buttigieg. Buttigieg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Buttigieg.
Are you sure? They've been talking about Buttigieg a lot.
No, Buttigieg.
Oh, okay. Well, at any rate, I think it's hilarious. Even Iowa doesn't want anyone to win the Democratic national.
They have managed to screw it up completely. Thank you, my friend. I want to tell you about Honor Bound Coffee. Honor Bound Coffee is put together by Pete and Seth Talbot. They've done very well with ReliefFactor.com. I'll tell you about that in a second. They've decided that part of that success means service to the people who serve us every day. So they began Honor Bound Coffee. If you're drinking coffee like I am in the morning, then what you ought to be doing is drinking Honor Bound Coffee. Best coffee made in America. Just go to honorboundcoffee.com. Pick yourself a brand. You can select your roast, light, medium, dark, or decaf. You can select your grind type, espresso, drip, French, or whole. Select your quantity. You get a free bag, 2 for $1 to start off, but you can, buy 2 bags for 4 weeks, 3 bags every 4 weeks, 4 bags every 4 weeks. It's very good deal. And you'll love your coffee, and every dollar of profit goes to support military families. Every single dollar, starting with the Semper Fi Fund. HonorBoundCoffee.com. Get subscribed today. And ReliefFactor.com, holding it up. North Carolina Blue, Borden and Bright Lime Green. I took it in the first hour. I remind you about it in hour 2 and 3. Some of you have very long commutes. You might be going to the Joe Biden rally, sympathy rally for Joe in Nashua today for a campaign that's over. You might be going to the Joe Biden rally. You're going to have to stand around because I don't think they can afford chairs anymore. Get your Relief Factor taken before you leave. Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, the 4 natural supplements that provide support for the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that come from failed campaigns, disappointed expectations, and absolute pratfalls of candidates. Coming up with Senator Tom Cotton. Don't go anywhere except to ReliefFactor.com and come right back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, joined now by United States Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Good morning, Senator. Good to have you.
Good morning, Hugh. It's good to be on with you.
Before I turn to the coronavirus and serious things, any comments on how the Democrats are going to run Medicare for all if they can't run a caucus?
Hugh, I think that point is well taken. The Democrats want to take over and run our entire healthcare system, that they can't seem to run a caucus, just like they couldn't seem to run a website 7 years ago. Perhaps we should be skeptical of their claims to a brighter and better future under Democratic-controlled government.
I just think so. Okay, coronavirus. There are 20,676 cases diagnosed, according to the South China Morning Post, 427 deaths, 664 recovered. In the United States, there are 15 cases and no deaths. In fact, only 2 deaths have occurred outside of mainland China, 1 in Hong Kong, 1 in the rest of Asia. Thai scientists have announced they suspect a combination of antivirals work. What's your assessment of where we are, Senator Cotton? Have we done enough? Are we doing enough to prevent spread and containment when it does occur?
First, I want to commend the president last week for taking decisive action and shutting down entry to the United States for anyone from China or anyone who had been to China in the last 14 days. That is a very bold action. Past administrations have not taken and would not take such an action, but there is no doubt that America is safer today because the president acted decisively last week. 22,000 people land in our airports every day from China. That means that just in the time since that ban went into effect on Sunday, tens of thousands of people have not come. There's no question that some of them would have brought the coronavirus. Is it the silver bullet? Does it mean no more cases in America? No, certainly not. But it means that we are better off now than we otherwise would have been. The key word that you cited there in terms of the cases in China, though, is diagnosed cases. Most professional epidemiologists using various models estimate that there are tens of thousands of cases of coronavirus in China, if not hundreds of thousands. I suspect we'll continue to see that number increase, just like I think we'll see the number increase around the world. There are many unknowns so far, Hugh. We don't know exactly how many people each person with coronavirus can infect. It could be 2 or 3 or even more. Hopefully, with preventive measures, we can get that down below 1. We don't know the exact incubation time. We don't know the extent to which people who are asymptomatic are contagious, though we know they are contagious. We don't know what the fatality rate will be. Right now, it looks to be a little bit above 2%. Again, hopefully with preventive measures, we can get that down. But when there are so many unknowns, it is best to follow Benjamin Franklin's wise maxim: an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Now, your friend Secretary Pompeo has offered China help. They have declined it. In fact, they're blaming us for over-reporting this, and their markets got slammed. Meanwhile, our markets are doing fine. Are we being too hard on the Chinese? Because I don't think the party is forthcoming. They've never been forthcoming in the past. I think General Secretary Xi is slow to the game here.
No, Hugh, we're not being too hard on China at all. You don't have to look at China's history of duplicity and incompetence at handling these kind of outbreaks, as we saw with SARS, although it's relevant. You can just simply look at the way they handled this outbreak. The first Chinese persons were coming down with these symptoms in early December. China did not report this outbreak to the World Health Organization, though, until December 31st. And then they continued to suppress it from their own people, going so far, in fact, to punish and silence doctors who are trying to blow the whistles, one of whom now actually has coronavirus and is struggling for his own life. So if the Chinese had been upfront and transparent from the beginning, it might not just be better for us around the world, it'd be better for their own people. And we should remember that the Chinese people are not responsible for this virus. They are the first and the worst victims of the Chinese Communist Party's duplicity and incompetence. That's why it's so important that China is open to everyone, to include the United States and international scientists, so we can not only send aid, but send our researchers in, try to figure out exactly how this virus originated, what we can do to ameliorate its impact, and ultimately get a vaccine.
And Senator Cotton, last question. We have the State of the Union tonight. Do you expect the president to be in an upbeat move, given both the success of the economy, the success of his Iowa rally, and, of course, the collapse of the Democratic effort in Iowa? What do you expect from the president tonight?
Well, yeah, the Democrats didn't report their results last night, but the Republicans did, and Donald Trump eked out a 98% victory over his two opponents. So I would suspect that he has got some wind in his sails coming out of Iowa, but also as you look around the country and you see record low numbers of unemployment, working class wages rising faster than they have in decades, or if you look around the world where we've killed two terror masterminds in just the last couple months, and we are once again feared by those who ought to be fearing us. So I expect that a very strong State of the Union in which the president will recap our successes over the last 3 years, victories on which we want to build not just this year, but for the next 4 years as well.
And a bipartisan acquittal or a partisan acquittal tomorrow, Senator Cotton?
I believe that some Democrats will vote to acquit on some counts, just as they voted against some counts in the House.
Senator Tom Cotton, great to have you. Thank you for joining me. Don't go anywhere, America. Coming right back with hour number 3 of today's Hugh Hewitt Show. Michael Pack, director of Created Equal, is next. We'll bring you up to date on the latest non-results from Iowa. All we know is that Joe Biden lost big. Stay tuned. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. It's Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for listening to the Hugh Hewitt Show on this, the morning after the Iowa caucuses. The President of the United States, Dan Scavino, has just retweeted a dumpster fire going down the river because that's what Iowa is. I'll come back to that in a moment. We don't have a winner. We just have a loser. Joe Biden lost. But we do have a winner with us. Michael Pack is a nationally renowned director of wonderful movies. He has a brand new film out this week, Created Equal. Clarence Thomas, in his own words, you can visit and see the trailer at justicethomasmovie.com. It's showing across the United States, and it's about Clarence Thomas, one of the most inspiring people in the United States. Michael Pack, welcome. Good to have you back, friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Give us the story behind this. I've interviewed the Justice a few times on the radio show. I knew him back in the 80s when he was the chairman of the EEOC, knew him as a judge on the D.C. Circuit. He's a wonderful guy. My grandfather's son, one of the most inspiring books I've ever read. What gave you the motive to make the movie, and how did you get access to the Justice?
Well, I had heard through some mutual friends that Justice Thomas was tired of having his story defined by his enemies. He was tired of the half-truths and untruths that were circulating about him. So, unlike you, I didn't really know much about him. I only had what I remembered from the 1991 confirmation hearing. So I met with him, and as you said, he is a lovely person, and I did some research, and I discovered what you obviously know, that he has a great story. It's just a classic American success story, and a Horatio Alger story is coming from dire poverty in the South, in the segregated South, to the highest court in the land through many twists and turns. It was obviously a great story, and I wanted to tell it, and luckily, he trusted us to tell it, and the film is based on 30 hours of interviews that I conducted with Justice Thomas and his wife over 6 months. And really, the film is primarily Justice Thomas talking right to camera, telling viewers in his own words about his life from the beginning all the way up to today. And as you know from all those times that you've seen him, he is a great speaker and a great storyteller. Lots of people who know him only from his distorted media image might not know that. So,
you know, as someone who's made television and movies myself, I think your most difficult part would be when the Justice decides to laugh. He really decides to laugh, Michael.
Yes, he has a great booming laugh. It takes up a lot of time. We have one time in the movie where we diverged a little from that pattern of him talking to camera, and we have him chatting with a few of his clerks where you, at the very end, where you can hear that great booming laugh in full. But most of the film, you know, look, Hugh, you know this well, he's talking about really difficult stuff lots of times. I mean, his hard beginnings, his being raised by his grandfather, but then his leaving the church and his grandfather kicking him out, and his radical period, and you know his journey back to the right. I mean, and to say nothing of him talking about the confirmation hearing. So these are difficult things. So you know, he wasn't laughing for lots of that. So we'll have only have that problem at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, it's been a dozen years since my grandfather's son came out, and I did a long interview with him then, Michael. And what sticks with me about the book is the very early morning, very cold runs in the truck with his grandfather. His grandfather was a hard man. Clarence Thomas loves him, but he was a hard-working, hard, demanding man, and they would make those rounds in an unheated car or truck doing their rounds. And it's just, he had a tough, there is no other childhood for a major American figure of which I am equally as difficult as Clarence Thomas's.
That's right. I can't think of any either. And add on to that segregation. I mean, you know, compared to the other justices, let alone, I mean, even Abraham Lincoln didn't, you know, who came from hard scrabble beginnings. It wasn't as hard as Justice Thomas's, and he wasn't black from the segregated South. It's just an incredible story. And the grandfather is a central figure. I too thought it was a great memoir, and I recommend everybody read it. But one thing you get from the movie that you don't get from the book is you get to see Justice Thomas and get sort of a personal sense of him. You know, you hear him tell it, you hear and feel his emotion. I think it's a great to both read the book and see the movie, and sadly, for lots of people, it's easier to go see a movie than to read a book.
Oh, of course. And that's why Created Equal, Clarence Thomas, in his own words, makes accessible what a few of us have known for a long time. JusticeThomasMovie.com. If you want to see where it's playing near you, if you want to view the trailer, you go to JusticeThomasMovie.com. I'd like to ask you about one thing in particular, Michael Pack, director of Justice of Created Equal. On this past Sunday in the Washington Post, I had a column about fake history and how Trump would view, how Trump's acquittal would be viewed in 50 years. And it came after Amazon put out a fake history ad about Richard Nixon ordering the tapes to be deleted. Richard Nixon did not order the tapes to be deleted. And we don't know what Trump's acquittal will play like in 50 years. But I have this paragraph in Sunday's column, an example. People today believe that at the time of his confirmation, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas was guilty of sexual harassment of Anita Hill. That is not what was believed at the time. A New York Times CBS News poll taken October 28, 1991, found the opposite. 58% of the respondents then believed Thomas's account. 29% believed Hill's. A sustained propaganda war has changed that, Michael Pack.
That is very true. As those figures indicate, it was like 2-1 in his favor after his very moving high-tech lynching speech and his really fighting back against efforts to get him to resign. As he said, he'd rather to withdraw. Rather, he said he'd rather die than withdraw. But that's right. The left continues its attack, and in the case of Justice Thomas, the attack is often tinged with racism. We have cartoons in the film of him as a shoe shine boy polishing Scalia's shoes, as a lawn jockey of the far right. I mean, racist images that, as Justice Thomas says in the movie, you could not apply to a liberal African American without being accused of racism. But it's persisted over all these years, and those myths are there. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we're making the movie. I mean, they are just, who gets to tell the history? I mean, if you let one side, the left, tell the history, you're going to get a very distorted picture. And that's why it's very important that there be historical movies and historical documentaries from the other point of view. So I beg your listeners to go see it. As go to our website. If it's not in your area, it's going to be now. It's in 20 movies this week. It'll be theaters. It'll be in 40 movie theaters next week. But if it's not in your area, there's a place to sign up. And if there's a big enough group of you, we can make another screening happen near you. But it's in New York, L.A., Dallas, Houston, Chicago. It's in a lot of cities. And people on our side, more or less, just don't go to the movies. They like to complain about the left-leaning media, but they don't go, whereas the left actually shows up, which is why I think in some ways they deserve to own the culture. And RBG, the movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is a case in point. I mean, it was a huge success. People went in droves, particularly her fans, but I went too. I learned something. I think people on the left should go see my film. I think they too would learn something about an important political person, plus an inspiring story. But I want your viewers to actually go, rather than just indicate their affection for Thomas, but buy tickets and show up.
JusticeThomasMovie.com to find the theaters near you, JusticeThomasMovie.com. Now, I hope to see him tonight at the State of the Union. He normally does come. I am curious if he liked the end result. Did he watch it?
Well, he has not watched it yet. Ginny has watched it, and she loves it. You can ask him what he thinks. He's heard from lots of people about it. I think he has opinions about it, and we'll see. I think eventually he will watch it. Look, I mean, it was hard for Ginny and Justice Thomas to do it. It was hard for Ginny to watch it. I mean, she teared up during the interview, and she said she cried when she watched it. It's not easy. These are they were really tough stuff. I mean, the grandfather relationship, it was great, but then he had then his grandfather kicks him out, and it's years before they're back together. He has his period of radicalism where he supports Malcolm X and Angela Davis, and only and fights with his grandfather during that period about America and his brother who's back from Vietnam. I mean, there's tough stuff in it, and then fundamentally, the Anita Hill period. It's hard for us to imagine it. Remember, only those of us of a certain age remember how amazing it was at the time, how the country was riveted on it, and how hard it was for Justice
I've
Thomas
never been
Jr.
as angry as I was on the radio during that period of time. But I look forward to seeing Justice Thomas movie, Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. It's a film by the wonderful Michael Pack. Go to justicethomasmovie.com, find out where it is, and go. Go to see Created Equal. Thank you, Michael. Coming right back. Nothing from Iowa yet, except that Joe Biden got beaten. Stay tuned, America. 22 minutes after the hour, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. It is an amazing morning. Iowa caucus so screwed up. All we know is who lost, Joe Biden. And when I mean lose, he's either in fourth or fifth place. He spent a couple of weeks there. They had his competitors chained to their chairs in the Senate except for Pete Buttigieg. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, they couldn't leave the Senate. But Joe just took it on the chin. No official results yet, but their moaning and groaning tells you all you need to know. Yesterday, Joe was on the Today Show with Savannah Guthrie. This was not the day to get cranky, grumpy, and frankly, look old and around the corner with Savannah Guthrie, America's sweetheart, cut number 2.
Has it occurred to you that there's a certain irony here that the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine?
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Well, do you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position, knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
You don't. Everybody knows what she's talking about, Joe. Everybody does. But he is cranky and touchy and grumpy. He's also forgetful. Britt Hume on Fox News yesterday sums it up. Cut number 1.
I've known Biden since he came to the Senate. I've always liked him. He's one of the nicest people in politics. And I'm the same age he is. And when he couldn't remember where he met the Parkland students, didn't remember that he had already been a year out of office, when he was thought he was in acted like he thought he was in Vermont when he was in Keene, New Hampshire. Those are not standard Biden gaffes of the kind he's always made. Those are gaffes that have to do with being old and senile. And how do I know that? I'm a bit that way myself. So
it's funny, not funny. It's accurate. Jake Tapper on CNN last night, just being brutal. Cut number 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year? I'm not trying to be funny, but
Stop. Chuck Todd, cut number 17.
It is not good that Biden, it is interesting. He's an afterthought in these college towns.
People are laughing.
And that is, it only, he's the electable guy. But Sanders' big shot at him is, can he get young voters out?
Not the electable guy. He's the unelectable guy. David Axelrod, cut number 21.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know, they don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter questioning whether the results were valid.
MSNBC live precinct report, cut 23.
One more look at, they're gone. The Joe Biden folks are gone. There's 2 left. There was like 5 and they were hanging tough, and now they're gone.
They're gone. Cut number 20. David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, Anderson Cooper, all bagging on Biden. Cut 22.
This is the filter through which you pass. Iowa doesn't pick winners, but it definitely picks losers.
Joe Biden doesn't have a great history with Iowa. And it's been a state he's lost twice. And, I think it's not.
He doesn't have a great history running for president.
Oh, my gosh. That's brutal. Guy Benson, who has just been retweeted by the president, said, no, but seriously, let us run your health care. The president just retweeted him. John in Delaware. What do you think, John?
Yeah, my hypothesis here was that Joe Biden has never really been the front runner. He was just useful during this false narrative that Trump colluded with the Ukraine and all this other nonsense. Now that it's done and over with, they don't need him no more. Joe's gone. We're smart. We're Americans. Nobody in their right mind would ever vote for Joe Biden.
Well, we will see. He's in Keene, New Hampshire this morning. I'm on in Keene. I'm encouraging people to go out and give him a sympathy clap. Really. Go see Joe today. No one else is going to. You're going to get a chair, that's for sure. I'm on him in Manchester, New Hampshire right now, Keene, Nashua. Everybody go out and for Joe Biden. He needs a little pick-me-up. I'll be right back. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show. 33 minutes after the hour, America, it's Hugh Hewitt. Good morning after the Iowa caucus. Good State of the Union morning to you. Good pre-acquittal day to you as well. I'm joined by Peter Baker of the New York Times. Peter, I've seen snafus. I've seen mess-ups. I remember Florida in 2000 very, very well. I ain't never seen anything like this.
No, I don't think we have. This is pretty embarrassing. I think it's, I was saying earlier, if your message is we didn't get hacked, we don't need the Russians to screw up, we can screw up all on our own, it's not a good message.
A good message. Guy Benson tweeted out, and they want to run Medicare, and the president retweeted it, and I think he's right. I do know there is a loser. I don't know who the winner is, but I think Joe Biden is the loser, because no matter how I read the clues, he's come in fourth or fifth. Do you agree with me? That's what the clues point to, even though we don't have a result, Peter?
That's what you're hearing, but that's why this actually might have been oddly good for him in the sense that everybody's focusing on the dysfunction of the counting rather than the fact that he apparently lost pretty big. If, in fact, he did lose, that last night was the best possible option for him, which everybody was focusing on everything except for the fact that he lost, right? Where it's really hurt people will be people like Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders, who apparently did really well, but didn't get the benefit of a nice victory night and a big flashy speech and a sense of momentum heading into New Hampshire.
You know, Peter, this may be where the platforms have changed things. I do believe the messages have been delivered. They're not by the old. I have been playing cuts of CNN. Let me give you just a couple quick examples. Jake Tapper last night with Biden supporters at a caucus, cut number 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year?
Okay, so cut number 17, Chuck Todd.
It is not good that Biden, it is interesting. He's an afterthought in these college towns.
Cut number 19, Chris Matthews, MSNBC.
The guy in the White House is chuckling all night here, showing the Democrats can't even get a 3-car funeral organized or whatever you want to call it. I would say
cut
to
number
the people
21, David Axelrod, CNN.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know, they don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter questioning whether the results.
Cut number 23, MSNBC Live Precinct Report.
One more look at, they're gone. The Joe Biden folks are gone. There's two left.
One more. Cut number 22, David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, Anderson Cooper on CNN.
This is the filter through which you pass. Iowa doesn't pick winners, but it definitely picks losers. You know,
Joe Biden doesn't have a great history with Iowa. And it's been a state he's lost twice. And, I think it's not.
He doesn't have a great history running for president.
Running for president.
So, Peter Baker, we may not know who won, but we know who lost.
Yeah, essentially, this is why, of course, he sent that letter right away, right? So that, in fact, he could try to discredit or at least call into question whatever the results turn out to be when they're announced. And he could say, well, look, that was all muddy. We don't really know who won. Let's go straight to New Hampshire. It's the best play he's got, given the apparent weakness he had at the caucuses. And again, you got a Pete Buttigieg who might have normally gotten a kind of a big bounce out of it. The question is, will he be able to, if he got the results we think maybe he got, does he manage to use that and become the more centrist, moderate alternative to Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire and going forward?
I'm on right now in Manchester, Nashua, and Keene, Peter Baker. And I wrote Liz Smith, his comms director, this morning. I said, have him join me. And he's out there talking to TV stations. I don't know that they quite get it yet on how to communicate in New Hampshire. Anyone can vote in New Hampshire, right? It's a quasi-open primary.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously President Trump doesn't have any serious opposition, so Republicans, at least some Republicans, might cross over. Unlike Iowa, it's not a complicated caucus process where you have these sort of bizarre Byzantine rules. This is a straightforward vote. You go in, you cast your ballot, you leave. And that's, I think, the question Iowa's got to answer, of course. This is not material to the Democrats necessarily today, but it is material to Iowa going forward, is whether they can stick with this kind of a caucus process.
Yeah, we'll forget as soon as it's done. I do think that Pete Buttigieg ought to be on Fox News and the Hugh Hewitt Show and appealing to crossovers, because if it becomes a Bernie Buttigieg race, as Bill Kristol just suggested, that's an interesting race, and Mike Bloomberg waiting to get in. Let's talk about a few other stories. I've mentioned this every hour. Rush Limbaugh is the man who built the talk radio mall in which I'm a tenant. I'm like the Nordstrom in the mall that Rush built. And he is a gentleman. He has always been very good to me, and he's been good to everyone in the business. Actually, you won't hear anyone in the business say a bad word about Rush. And probably, as was said by Byron York last year, over a sustained period of time, the most influential conservative in America. Certainly, along with Oprah, the only entertainer to build and maintain an audience of 20 million people daily for 30 years. How significant is his illness, Peter Baker?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I don't know, obviously, the medical details, but it doesn't sound good, obviously, the way he made it out yesterday to lung cancer. And I think you're right. He has been a giant in media. He's been a giant on the conservative talk show circuit. He's been a giant in setting the framework of the conversation now for, as you say, going back 20 years. So if his voice were to leave the airways for a while he recovers or what have you, that's a big change. And I think he has set the tone and he set a legacy for a lot of people who followed him. I agree with you entirely.
It's 30 years, and people don't remember the Rush to Excellent tours. They don't remember how he built. He really did build the mall that Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, we all live in and communicate with. And he sort of, with his TV show, laid a marker down for Roger Ailes to follow. Some interesting think pieces ahead. Let's turn to the President's State of the Union tonight. What do you expect? First of all, just a complete dart at the board. Think he's going to take a shot at the Iowa caucus's disorganization?
Well, it's certainly a free shot, right? He's already, of course, on Twitter doing it. Whether he would do it in a speech or not, I don't know. It would the way you would normally do it, try to do it with humor in a way that kind of makes fun of them without taking a direct shot in that kind of a setting and that kind of a speech, because it's not meant to be a partisan speech directly. It's a speech to the nation. So if you do what you want to, you normally would want to do it a certain degree of subtlety. We'll see. He's been really, for a off the script guy who likes to riff, he has been very disciplined about sticking to the script on these occasions, on these State of the Union speeches. He's very cognizant, I think, of the large audience and cognizant of sort of the majesty of the moment. He doesn't tend to go off on these, the rally-like tangents. So we'll see what they put in the script. He'll probably follow it, I think, whatever they decide.
If I were in the writer's room, I would suggest that he compliment Senators Grassley and Ernst on being able to get back from Iowa and thank them for the support in getting him a 99% win or a 98% win and having the results. And I think that's all I would do is I'd allied to it. Will there be a bipartisan acquittal, Peter Baker? What's your reporting?
It's a really good question. Both, but Joe Manchin and Doug Jones yesterday, Democrats from West Virginia and Alabama, said they were still struggling with the decision. They hadn't made up their mind. We obviously don't know about Sinema, I think, either. So it's possible one of those Democrats votes for acquittal tomorrow. I don't know, honestly. I don't know them well enough to say. Obviously, even one Democratic vote would allow the president to say, even though it would be a stretch, that it was a bipartisan acquittal. Likewise, you heard Adam Schiff, the lead House manager yesterday, almost pleading on the floor for just one Republican, even he said, to vote for conviction. So he, too, could try to say it was a bipartisan vote. It's either way, one vote, two votes. This is a very straight party line moment, I think, and I think that's indicative of where we are.
Now, I want to close by coronavirus. I've been giving the stats out. According to China, the official stats, 20,676 cases, 470 deaths, 640 recoveries. Senator Cotton last hour saying we really cannot believe that it's only 427 deaths. We can't really believe it's 664 recovered. We really don't know. But he is very confident. He is complimentary of the president's response. What do you think of the response thus far?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting moment for him. He hasn't had too many externally created crises, right? Most of the crises of his presidency have either been political things he might have kind of created himself a little bit. This is a big, big moment for him to sort of rise to the occasion. We'll see what he says tonight. The consequences of the travel restrictions that have been put in place could be important in terms of the economy. Obviously, China being our biggest economic rival, to say we can't have anybody going back and forth for 14 days is scary to a lot of businesses. I don't know how significant that will be. We got through SARS, and we'll see what happens here. But it's a big challenge, a big moment for a president to sort of take yourself out of the political sphere for a moment and make sure you're the leader of the country.
And Peter Baker, a last prediction. Do you think we will see for the first time ever a Space Force Joint Chief of Staff join the Chiefs tonight?
That's a good question. I didn't know about that. I didn't focus on that. That could be. President Trump likes the Space Force. They released the logo for it the other day. That was it's something he likes to brag about. And he likes to, I think, claim for his legacy. So yeah, that would make that makes sense to me. I don't have any reporting on it.
Peter, good to talk to you as always. Peter Baker from the New York Times. Follow him on Twitter at Peter Baker NYT. Follow me, America Now. Let's check on the business story of the day, brought to you by Andrew and Todd. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian. They are with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, andrewandtodd.com. If you need to refinance your loan, if you need to consolidate debt, if you need to get cash out of your house to pay for college, the window is open. The 10-year Treasury was at 1.52 yesterday. It's at 1.58% this morning. That means all of the interest rates are in the threes. Great time to become a non-occupying co-borrower with your son or your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter. Help them get into a condo. Help them get their life started with these remarkable interest rates as money is flooded in the United States as a result of the coronavirus. But you can't act until you call. 888-888-1172. Andrew Del Rey and Todd Avakian are with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They lend you money. They do not broker out your call. Best place to do it, andrewandtodd.com. The big story this morning, Google disappointed yesterday after the market closed. Yesterday, the Dow was up 143, the NASDAQ was up 122, the S&P is up 23. But Google disappointed. Disney reports tonight. Tesla stock continuing its meteoric rise. Amazon stock had a great pre-morning. We'll see if they maintain it throughout the day. But a great day to call andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. Also a great day to sign up for Honor Bound Coffee. I've been telling you about it for weeks now. If you drink coffee like I drink coffee, which is every single morning, make sure the profits from that cup of coffee go to support military families. Honor Bound Coffee offers you 4 different wonderful brews, 4 different ways to grind it, 1 great taste, no matter which of those brews you get, and 100% of the profits from Honor Bound Coffee go to support military families. Their first charity that they're helping, Semper Fi Fund, known very well to my program. Others will be coming. Honor Bound Coffee. Started by Pete and Seth Talbot. Wonderful guys. You can trust them. Great coffee. You can also get ReliefFactor.com this morning. And if you're going to go to that Joe Biden rally and you're going to set up the chairs, you might be the only one there. You need ReliefFactor.com in Nashua. That's where Joe is this morning. You're going to need this. Looking if you're watching on Universe, on Univision, on Town Hall TV, you see the North Carolina blue, lime green bag. $19.95 gets you started. Join the tens of thousands of people, including me, who take it every single morning. I took it in the first hour. I would recommend you take it every single day to fight the commuting aches and pains. If you've got a long one, you're up north right now in Seattle, you're making your way down, or you're stuck in Nashua, New Hampshire traffic because of all of the media coming into town. ReliefFactor.com, $19.95. Just give it a try. And come right back. Final segment of the Hugh Hewitt Show coming up. 1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234. If you want to join on the State of the Union morning with me, it's the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. President Trump tweeting, "It's not the fault of Iowa. It is the do-nothing Democrats' fault. As long as I am president, Iowa will stay where it is. Important tradition." He means in the order of the caucuses. Let's talk with Ty in Texas. Ty, what do you think of this snafu to end all snafus?
Hey, Hugh, thanks for taking my call, man. They're a bunch of dysfunctional nonsense, and for the Democrats to get out and really campaign hard on their ideas and agendas is a failed model for them. So this is kind of par for the course, all the nonsense. But my thing is that you have repeatedly made the assertion that Bernie Sanders should be the candidate because he would be the easiest way to highlight the non-viability of the socialist movement in America.
Clearest choice. Yep.
Okay. And I think I see your move behind that, but I think it lacks a lot of wisdom because there's a sustained viability behind not necessarily Bernie Sanders, but his mindset, the socialist movement. And there are millions and millions and millions of really upset people from the way that he was treated by the Democratic Party last election. And his viability and him being at the forefront is partly because of that and partly because of the dysfunction of the Democratic Party. But I believe, and this is my prediction, the Democratic Party is getting ready to split. And you're seeing the beginning of the American Socialist Party. And that we're going to have a three-party system. Bernie Sanders will go down as the godfather of all of this, and it will be sustained and moved forward by somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or somebody who has millions of Twitter followers, but not a lot of common sense.
Hey, you know what? That's possible, and I'm happy with that. Look, all I want is clarity. I think America will choose its free enterprise genes. I believe it will choose its liberty genes. I believe it is innate in the American people that, however charismatic and wonderful and bright, smiling emo, I hope you're taking notes over at Media Matters, AOC becomes, they will never persuade America to go European. Never. Not in a million years if we have clarity, if we're not tricked. Hey, Ty, thank you. I want to go to Harold in North Hollywood. Harold, you're on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Go ahead, Harold.
You know, when I think about this conservatism and Bernie, I think the middle class is getting tired of the ruling class of this country, and they think they're getting the short end of the stick. That's why I think people, I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but I think that's why people are trying to move into the left, because they feel left out.
I don't think people are moving to the left. I think people are moving to Donald Trump for that reason. I think Bernie is getting a left splinter of the Democratic Party for a lot of that reason. The middle class does feel squeezed, forgotten, but the guy who's delivered for them to date, rising wages, 3.5% unemployment, his name's Trump, not Sanders. He's delivered.
Hey, why do you think that people are dissatisfied today?
Well, I don't think they are. I think you see a lot of people on the news. I mean, MSNBC has 1 million people and CNN has 1 million people, and those 2 million people talk to each other, and there are 330 million Americans. And I think 330 or 328 million Americans are pretty happy. Obviously, there's dysfunction in the country, and people are sick, and there are diseases of despair that I've talked about on the show. But generally speaking, I don't think America's dissatisfied. I don't see people leaving. When people want to leave a country, like they're trying to flee Venezuela by boat, train, plane, when they're trying to get out of China because coronavirus can't be contained, when they're trying to get anywhere but where they are, that's dissatisfaction. That ain't happening in America, my friend. We are a very satisfied country. I got to close very quickly just with a couple. Jake Tapper, CNN, cut number 16.
Biden, how are we doing over here? This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
There's time. This year?
Oh, Jake. David Axelrod, cut 21 on CNN.
Yeah, I think all these campaigns sort of know. They don't know exactly where everybody's going to land, but they know if they had a good night or a bad night. The Biden campaign obviously knows they didn't have a good night, which is why they were the first ones to send a letter questioning whether the results were valid.
All right, one last cut. CNN, this is Axelrod, Gloria Borger, and Anderson Cooper piling on poor Joe.
This is the filter through which you pass.
First.
Iowa doesn't pick winners, but it definitely picks losers.
You know, Joe Biden doesn't have a great history with Iowa. And it's been a state he's lost twice. And, you know, I think it's not.
He doesn't have a great history running for president.
Running for president.
But it's because
Ouch! Ow, oh, my gosh. It's kick Joe when he's down day. It really is kick Joe when he's down day and he's down. Joe, I want people to go out to Nashua. I'm on to Nashua, Manchester, Keene, all of you people. Go find Joe. Give him a clap him up a little bit. Give him a clap on the back. He's feeling bad. Disaster in Iowa. 2 weeks on the Malarkey Express. All for naught. All that time on a bus in the middle of Iowa. All for naught. We might have results from Iowa tomorrow. We'll definitely have excerpts from the State of the Union. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Generalissimo. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.